Okay.
Well, y'all might be wondering why I haven't been keeping in touch. Go ahead and kill Louise for a minute. I've just been going through a lot. I've been going through a lot of stress, and stress caused me to have a lot of chest pains. So they told me to take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning.
No, you gotta back up. You gotta back up and tell them what our whole night's been like.
Well, yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, it just hadn't been one night.
Where are you at?
Well, it's
where are you at right now?
I'm at the hospital, but that just it's been a long 4 or 5 days. You know, it's just been stress. You know, they did all the tests that they did an EKG. They found out it ain't heart related. They made sure it wasn't my lungs. I look like a checkered board.
Want to play connect the dots?
Want to play tic-tac-toe? But I'm okay. It's just I'm going through a lot of stress due to the fact that I've got a lot of pain going on, and it all boils down to the pain-related issue, you know. But
and I'm tired.
You're tired?
I'm very tired.
You're very tired?
It's on you now. I'm very, very tired.
Very tired. Well, let's go home and pour you in the bed.
Yeah.
Hey, if y'all ever want to come have a nice place to eat, Jesus' Bar over here next to the bunkhouse. I'll share a little story with y'all. Here, just a second. This used to be the bunkhouse. Right in here is where I used to work for $27 a day. And we used to go into here upstairs. I used to live in there with about, I'm saying, it was about 300 other guys. But it was just one of them places where it was a temporary labor service. And before I met my wife, it was a place where it was a dead-end trail, really. And I'll share. Yeah. Ready to go, honey? I know you're tired, baby. But anyway, this is I'll wait till I get home and continue the video, but I'll tell you all a story of a couple of stories about the crazy things that would happen in this place. It's called the bunkhouse, man. Huh? Anyway. Sometimes I would walk down the street down here to catch that on a ticket. It was Jack Brown's. Jack Brown's temporary labor service. They quit. They went out of business as well. Jack Brown was a guy that used to, he started out in a station wagon and he grew his business. But when he first started his temporary labor service, he used to take people around in the station wagon and come pick people up and stuff. But he used to be on, I'll show you here in a second. Let's see. It's a ways down here. It used to be right there, I believe. And they, Jack Brown, he had to move his business across the street over to here because, see, they tore it. No, here it is, right there, empty parking lot. Because some homeless people caught the building on fire. They started a fire inside a bathtub trying to keep warm during the winter. And so it caught a fire and burnt down. But yeah, I call it the good old days because of this reason. I didn't have no responsibilities. All I had to do was worry about paying $5 a night for a bunk at that bunkhouse that I showed you. And then have to worry about going next door to Jesus's to eat french fries and chili and cheese for $2.75. Of course, now I think it's $8. Hey, I decided I'd go ahead and wait till we got home instead of traveling on the road and trying to overtalk Louise. She is kind of loud. But you know, I'm sharing these stories with y'all out here and sharing with you what I'm going through, and it's kind of embarrassing, you know what I'm saying? I did find out that, you know, stressing and pain that you're going through can cause stress, and stress can cause problems. I did find out that there ain't nothing wrong with my heart, there ain't nothing wrong with my lungs. I'm just going through a lot of stress, and I don't understand why it causes me chest pains when there ain't nothing wrong. Doctor told me that pain can cause other symptoms, you know, to happen to you, even though that the other symptoms not be a fatal thing or a serious thing. You know, I'm glad that that there's nothing wrong with my heart. I was scared to death, because when I started having chest pains, I did get online and I did start reading about some things, and I procrastinated about going because I was scared to hear the truth. I didn't want to hear the doctor tell me I had some heart problems, man. But I'm so glad that I don't have heart problems. But anyway, I'll pick up on the story of that bunkhouse that I've showed in this. You know, I'm continuing the story. The bunkhouse, man, I would go to work for $27 a day, and at the end of the day I would pay $5 for a bunk. Then I would walk over to the Red House. We called it the Red House, and I'd buy me a nickel sack of weed, and I'd walk back to the bunkhouse, and before I walked into the bunkhouse, I'd walk past that Jesus's restaurant and have me some chili cheese fries. And the bunkhouse was so crazy, man. I mean, it was a crazy world in there, man. You're in there with a bunch of alcoholics and drug addicts and weed heads, and it's not a very nice place to be. You can wind up getting yourself hurt in there. I mean, it was so bad that once you paid for your bunk, man, the whole place was filled with smoke. I mean, it was filled full of weed smoke, full of cigarette smoke. There was all kinds of activities going on everywhere, as well as a lot of drinking. And fly on the screen. And so I'd always found out quick that, you know, when you're in a bunk, you don't ever count your money or even pull your wallet out or even leave your things around on top of your bunk or around you, because, you know, somebody will poke you on your left while the other guy's trying to steal from you on your right. You know, so through the months that I've lived there, I finally worked my way into the back, all the way around the corner. Is where I found my bunk to be more comfortable, because you didn't have that many people walking in front of you. And the most interesting thing that I found is that you can make money in them kind of places. The first story that I'm going to share with you about the bunkhouse, I'm going to share a series of stories with you out there on this bunkhouse thing. But me and the fellas, we would always, I had just a small ring of fellas that would always observe alcoholics walking in the front door. I mean, they'd be plowed. And you know, you always knew who drank and who didn't, and they would always try to keep the alcoholics around in the same area, you know what I'm saying? Because alcoholics really would get on other people's nerves. It caused fights, you know. Somebody that was just a casual weed smoker, you didn't want to put the alcoholics over there with them, you know, because you know, the guy that ran the bunkhouse or that ran the front desk, he had to be wise on who he put a bunk with, you know what I'm saying? But I would always, me and this small group of guys, we would always watch somebody walk in, and we would say, hey, there goes old Red. I remember Red was a big old guy, and Red drank a lot, and we would always make bets with Red, you know, and a couple other normal, you know, everyday alcoholics, you know. They come in there always plowed. Well, we would, if they stuck an alcoholic drunk guy on the top bunk, and he was and you knew that he had a problem peeing, you know what I'm saying? We would make, me and my buddies, we'd make bets, you know. Hey, I didn't ever make the bet. There's a lot of people that make the bet, if he's going to pee tonight, is there going to be a fight? They would just bet that simple bet. I didn't want to bet on that. I wasn't good at guessing who was going to pee the bed at night. I think I tried it a couple of times and lost. Didn't make my $5, you know, or $10 or whatever I decided to bet on it. Sometimes I'd, you know, and as time went by, I knew who to bet, who to put a good bet on. Sometimes I lost, you know, but we would actually bet. You know, I would say, okay, bet that if that guy gets drunk and pees the bed, and the fight breaks out, who's going to win the fight? And that's what I would bet on, who was going to win the fight. And looking back on it, it was it's crazy bets that we were placing, man. But I would actually make money on an alcoholic peeing the bed. A couple of times I lost, man, because old Big Red, man, sometimes he got put on the bottom bunk a lot, and they would always, for some reason, I guess there was a thing with it, man. I guess they knew, I don't know if it was done purposely or what, man, but it just seemed like there was always a fight breaking out in there because somebody was always getting peed on. They'd always put somebody on the top bunk that peed on, that always had a problem peeing, and I guess maybe that was maybe it was done on purpose. I don't know, but it always seemed to me that there was always a fight breaking out in there in the bunkhouse when I lived there. And I didn't live there for too long, but me and the fellas, we would bet on that, man. Anyway, Big Red got his butt kicked one time by a little bitty guy, man. And the little bitty guy, he didn't have no drinking problem, man, but old Red came in he didn't really have a problem peeing, and I knew he wasn't going to have a problem peeing. But I said, if the fight does break out, and if you bet on a fight, and the fight did break out, no matter who won or lost, man, you had to stay true to your bet. And so I bet that, all right, if the fight breaks out, Red's going to win. Well, Red got put on a top bunk, and there was a little guy underneath. And somebody bet on the little guy, and I bet on Red, and Red got his butt kicked, man. I mean, Red always knocks people out, man. He was a big old guy, but I guess Red was a little too plastered that night. But anyway, that was just a one thing, and then I'll share with you another thing one time. It was Sunday night. Sunday mornings was always free coffee and donuts. And I didn't make too many real close friends in there, but I'll tell you how I made this real close friend, and I'll share with you later on in other videos how me and this guy got to meet. But Sunday morning came around. Everybody was in line for coffee and donuts, free coffee and donuts, and I just stood in line, and I got tired of waiting, man, because they only seemed like they never could get the coffee out quick enough, man. Everybody was always standing in line waiting on coffee. So I remember, you know, I got in the habit of it, and of always saying, you want coffee and donuts, you want coffee and donuts, you want coffee and you want coffee, you want. I'd find out who all would want coffee, and if there was everybody standing in line that wanted coffee, and there wasn't no one, sometimes I'd hit it just right, where, okay, everybody's waiting for coffee in front of me, yeah, well, all I want is a donut, and I'd go over there and grab the donut, and I'd go on to my bunk. Well, one time, I was standing in line, and I did that. You want coffee? You want coffee? Everybody said they wanted coffee, so I went over there and picked the donut up, and this big old dude, jumped out of line behind me. He said, man, you picked out my donut. I said, well, dude, everybody's waiting for coffee and donuts. He says, that don't matter, man. He said, that's my donut. I said, well, you wasn't probably going to get it anyway because I was ahead of you anyhow. And so he chased me to the back, all the way to the back of the bunkhouse, over there where my bunk was. And I was scared, man. That dude, he was going to break me in half over a dadgum donut. And I ran behind the biggest guy I could find. I knew they called him Big John. I said, Big John, please help me, Big John. He goes, dude, I ain't got no dog in this fight. I said, dude, man, he's gonna beat my butt over a donut. And he goes, shouldn't have stole his donut. I said, I didn't steal his donut, man. I said, I didn't have time to argue with him, man, because he was looking for me. I had a little bit of time to talk to Big John because I was hiding behind Big John. I mean, I had to, you know, really talk harder. And I pulled a joint out of my pocket, and I said, Big John, I will smoke this fatty with you here if you keep him from whipping my butt. He goes, deal. So I lit it up right then, right there. And that guy ended up finding us coming around to my bunk. That dude says, come here, you little... He called me some names I ain't gonna mention. But Big John stood up and said, say, man, the door's that way. He goes, come on, you're gonna stand up for this little punk and this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other? And he goes, yep, sure am. And from that moment on, me and Big John become best friends. And that big guy did tell me, I'll get you later. He can't stick around with you too long. Well, I knew right then I better make Big John my best friend. So Big John for a long time didn't have to buy nothing. I always bought every bit of it and smoked it with Big John. That was my buddy. And I'll share the other stories with you, man, because I don't want to tear it up on one. I'd be sitting here talking for hours about the stories about how me and Big John became good friends and what we did in that bunkhouse and made lots of money. But anyway, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I'm okay. Doctor says I just need to quit trying to stress over a lot of things. I said, well, what about the pain, man? He says, well, pain could cause you to stress. He says, but I have a feeling you're just worrying about a lot of things, and you're worrying, and you're causing yourself to worry yourself sick. And I go, well, so that's what I'm going to do, man. He did tell me that stress it could be a bad thing, could cause you to have a heart attack, but so far your heart's just fine and you don't have no problems with your passageways in your heart. It's beating perfect. You ain't got no problems with your lungs are just fine. They took x-rays of my lungs and everything, took x-rays of my ribs and everything, make sure I didn't something wasn't broke or cracked or something like that. But anyway, I'll let this go, and I'll catch y'all on the next one, man. But no, I'm not proud of these stories, man. I want to make that clear out there that if you'll listen to these stories, you might learn something out of them. Because it might seem like I'm going with the glory and I'm trying to put it out there like, oh, this is the road to go down. And I had a lot of fun going down that road in some ways, but in other ways, I went through pure hell. In the long run, in the end, I almost lost my life, you know, on down the road years later, even after I met my wife. So I'm going to start sharing these stories out there with y'all. And just keep that in mind, that I'm not praising, that's my past. You know, I'm not praising my past. I'm just telling you this story so you'll see, and maybe one person out there can see me sharing these stories and realize that in the end, it ain't worth it. But anyway, I'll see y'all later, man. For now, Limpster out.